Chapter 2. The prophet sat behind a desk littered with books and scrolls. He stared at the unopened note in his hand. It was from his son, Levi. After many years of silence between the two, Levi had recently rekindled the relationship. Paul, careful of the fragile line between them, treasured the connection, thinking it had been lost forever. With shaking hands, he opened the note. "Hello, Paul. I have so many things to say to you, but that can wait. I have the book." Paul dropped the letter. He closed his eyes, allowing tears to fall, and gave thanks to the Almighty. His smile quivered as he began to read. "I am sorry for keeping it a secret from you over the years, but I had my reasons. I remember what you told me about the book containing secrets. Well, I have been searching for quite some time, attempting to unlock them. Did you know that there are different levels of soul tapping? In my research, I feel that we have only scratched the surface of understanding it, but we can discuss that at another time. I feel that I am close to locating the Garden of Stones. All this time, I thought it to be a myth, but I am now convinced that it is real. I am so close. You asked about Arkin. He is a great young man. He has your attitude, God help us, and his mother's eyes. I know it's been 18 years since you last saw him as a baby, and for that I am sorry as well. But we both know what happened. We live with the choices we make. Suri would be so proud of her son. I miss her every day. Maybe someday soon, Arkin and I will come for a visit. Your son, Levi." Paul pressed the letter to his chest before carefully storing it away. He sat for a time, pondering Levi's words. Staring at a candle, he felt a chill and walked to warm himself by the fire. He threw a piece of wood on as a knock came at the door. "Come in, Torin," Paul said. A tall man, broad as the doorway, entered the room. "How'd you know it was me?" "I sent for you this morning, no more than an hour ago. Sometimes a man can predict the future and have no need of the sight," Paul said, smiling. Torin eyed the littered desk and melted candles. "You haven't slept." "I'd say that you have a task for me," he said, walking into the room. "I should be calling you prophet," Paul said, and slapped him on the back. "Come and sit. As you know, the order is very particular about who they recruit. We have people in every school and guild in the land." Paul sat as well, easing back into a chair. "Only the best and brightest are invited to join us here at the Grand Highlands. And they must go through the rituals and trials to see if they make the cut," Torin said in a flat tone. "Yes, as you well know," Paul grinned behind his gray beard. The prophet took a letter from the drawer and began to write. "There is a young woman named Lila," the prophet said. "She lives in Fortuna. This letter gives the details on her whereabouts. It authenticates her recruitment as well." Paul placed the letter in an envelope and closed it with his wax seal. "Given that spring is almost here, you should be able to make good time." "Now that the pass is clear, I should make Fortuna in 3 days, Torin said. "Granted, a hard 3 days ride, but I'm eager to get back on the road." Paul cocked an eyebrow. "You are aware of the unrest in the kingdom, I presume. There could be trouble on the road." "Yes, news travels to this part of the world from time to time," Torin noted with a hint of irony and leaned forward. "Word is that the Dark Society is on the move." Paul nodded. "This is true. I believe they have been scouring the earth in search of stones." The prophet paused for a moment. "God help us if they've found any." Torin noticed Paul growing more distant as the seasons passed. The fire popped and hissed, drawing the prophet's gaze. "The kingdom is plunging towards upheaval," Paul said, gathering himself. "People in Kingsport are barely making ends meet due to King George's taxes. Needless to say, the church and their new religion are a factor in these troubled times as well. High Priest John and the clergy must be mad to think they can convert everyone in the world, Torrin said. The people will never renounce their faith of old. You would be surprised at what people will do when they are backed into a corner, Paul said. King George and his appointed government officials control the food. They oversee and regulate the farmers from seed to meat. Paul rubbed his head, soothing an ache. And they control the currency. So in order to make the people do as they say, all they have to do is squeeze. It's just a matter of time before they get what they want. So who is behind this, and to what cause? Torrin asked. Are you saying that the Dark Society has implanted themselves in the government and the church? Paul nodded in affirmation. I believe they have been there the whole time. Before the creation of the order even. Planning. Waiting. There was a span of silence as both men sat deep in thought. The fireplace popped and hissed again. I believe we are living in the last days. The time is depicted in the path of man, Paul said. I have been corresponding with Levi. He believes that he is close to finding the Garden of Stones. The Garden of Stones? Torrin said, then cocked his head. I thought that was a myth. It is real, Paul stated. Many of the secrets guarded by the Order were lost in the rebellion years ago. All we have to go on now is faith in the book. In order to protect the garden, they left clues for us to follow. The prophet handed the letter over to Torrin. If these truly are the last days, then time is of the essence. I believe this girl may be vital to our purpose. Torrin secured the letter and stood. What purpose is that? The prophet stood. To save man from darkness until the Almighty returns. Lila counted the moments until class was over. Are there any more questions? A middle-aged woman with a prudish face asked, scanning the room at her unresponsive students. Then class dismissed. Chairs rattled against desks as the students began to exit the classroom. Not you, Lila, the teacher said. May I speak with you for a moment? Lila turned and walked back to the teacher's desk. You shouldn't be writing about such things, the teacher chided, throwing Lila's papers on the desk. What would people say if they saw this? You said to write about what we wanted to be when we finished school, Lila contested. Women have their roles and men have theirs, the teacher said. It is forbidden for you to be a doctor, as you well know. Yes, but I have studied anatomy, biology, and physics, Lila noted, twirling her hair, a nervous twitch. I have worked with my father on the farm, tending to livestock for years. Farm animals and people are two different things, Lila, the teacher said, then rolled her eyes. That's enough. I will hear no more of this. Do I make myself clear? Yes, ma'am, Lila said, her eyes cast down. Now, run along, the teacher said, waving her way. Lila gathered her papers and walked out of the classroom. I will be a doctor, she thought. What did she want? Maya asked, leaning against the wall outside of the school. I wrote about being a doctor, Lila said. Maya laughed. But you're a girl. You can't be a doctor. A boy bumped into Lila as he chased his friends from the schoolyard. She scowled at him as he turned his head to smile back at her. I think he likes you, Maya snickered, drawing a glare from Lila. Oh, cheer up. Don't let that old hag bring you down. I will be a doctor, Lila stated. My father says I can be anything I want to be. Well, I'm going to be a seamstress, Maya said. Maybe I can make you a nice little doctor dress one day, she jeered. A smile crept onto Lila's face as she shook her head. They both laughed as they strolled down the dirt road that ran through the town. Lila noticed that it was growing busier by the day as shop owners were making ready to open their stores. This winter season had been worse than normal, and she knew that people were anxious for the trading season. She also knew that work was about to pick up on the farm. "Hello, girls," a man said, sweeping the steps of a shop called the Trader's Village. "Lovely weather today." "Hello," Lila greeted. "Yes, it is." "Lila, would you be a dear and tell your father that we will be needing his services soon? I feel that it's going to be a busy season," he said with a smile. "I will," she replied. "I'll tell him tonight." "Thank you, dear," he said. "You two stay out of trouble." Maya leaned into Lila. "He's cute," she said. "I suppose," Lila blushed. Maya looked at Lila, puzzled. "You know he likes you. He's only a few years older than you are." "He's 10 years older," Lila said. "So?" Maya protested, running a hand through her hair. Lila shook her head. "Maya, I barely have time as it is. Any time that I can spare goes to school." "Why do you want to be a doctor anyway?" "Because I want to help people. If I can make someone feel better or save a life, what could be more important than that?" "A pretty new dress." Lila laughed. "Seriously, it can make a first person feel better, and it can save a man's life if it's lying on the ground next to the bed," Maya said. "Maya!" Maya shrugged. "I'm just saying." "Okay, point made." "Well, this is my stop," Maya said. "See you in the morning." "See you tomorrow." Lila waved and watched her friend enter the mansion of a house she called home. Cropped rose bushes lined the fence. Lila couldn't wait for warm weather to arrive. She loved walking by Maya's house when the flowers were in bloom. Soon. She walked past the last few shops in Fortuna with the cool early spring breeze in her hair. Dust rose with each step as she made her way along the dirt road that led to her father's farm. "I will be the best doctor Fortuna's ever seen," she thought. "Knowledge is strength," her father once told her. "If I can be more knowledgeable and capable than any man, then they can't deny me, can they?" She turned her gaze to the sky and closed her eyes as she drew in the fresh air. The blue sky sun kissed her skin and she felt her spirit rise. Topping the hill, her home came into view. The farm lay nestled in the green field amid the rolling hills. The sight of it always made her proud to be a farmer's daughter. She shook her head and smiled, noticing the chickens were out again. Her brother was supposed to fix the fence days ago. Smoke rose from the chimney of the farmhouse. She made her way to the stables. Lila tended to the horses every day after school. She loved animals, sometimes more than people. They were great listeners and never condescended anything she had to say. She felt like they believed in her. "Hello, Perla, you old girl," she said, patting the neck of her mother's white horse. It nuzzled her back in affection. "Oh, I missed you too." "And what of you, Tom?" she said to the brown mare in the next stable. He snorted and bobbed his head up and down in reply. She laughed. "I'll get to you in a second. Hold on." After the horses were fed and brushed down, she made her way around the back of the barn. She was startled at the sight of an unfamiliar, massive brown horse. It paid her no mind as it casually ate at a pile of grains. "Company," she thought. Sneaking around the back of the house, she peeked through the window. Sitting at the dinner table was her father, mother, and a giant of a man. She could see that the big man had long blonde hair and a trimmed beard. He sat up straight in the chair and seemed important and purposeful. They were in discussion, and both her parents looked deep in thought. Lila smoothed down her clothes and stood tall before she opened the door. "Mother, I'm home," she said. "You'll never guess what happened at school today." "Oh, I'm sorry," she said, acting surprised when she saw that they had a guest. "Hello, dear," her mother, Alicia, said as she stood. "Come in. We have a visitor. This is Brother Torin. He's here to see you, child." Lila looked at the big man, then at her father, Jaeger, who sat with his eyes fixed on the table. The massive man turned in greeting. "Hello, Lila. I have been commissioned with recruiting young, gifted men and women. You have been selected as one of the top of our ranks to attend the Grand Highlands." She noted his voice as deep and rough, but his eyes as warm and kind. "The Grand Highlands," she thought. "They have the most skilled hands in the kingdom. Surely I can learn to be a doctor there." "It is a great honor to be invited, but of course the choice is yours," Torn said with a slight bow of his head. A rush of excitement gripped her as she thought of the possibilities. She looked at her father. "But what about the farm? It was a long winter and—" "Hush, child," Jaeger said, looking at her. "Your brothers and sisters can help us with the farm. This is a chance of a lifetime. You can become what you've always wanted." His voice quivered. "You can be so much more." "Can I be a doctor?" she said, her eyes longing. Torn smiled. "At the Grand Highlands, you can become whatever you want to be." Alicia regarded her daughter with tears in her eyes, nodding her head in approval. Lila looked at her father, seeking approval from him as well. "Well, go on then," he said with pride. "Run and pack your things, dear." She held a scream of excitement as she turned to run up the stairs. Later, as the evening sun began to fade, the family gathered for the night's meal, honoring Brother Torrin as their guest. Lila's brothers and sisters were sent to stay the night at their aunt's house in Fortuna. "Tell us about the Grand Highlands, Brother Torrin," Jaeger said, between bites. "What's it like?" "It is a community that supports one another," Torrin said. "We learn together and we train together in all that we do." "And what is it that you do, exactly?" Jaeger asked, wanting a clearer picture while there was still time to change his mind. "What have you heard?" Torrin asked, pausing his meal and raising an eyebrow. "Only the gossip of small town folk," Jaeger said, as he sliced into a thick cut of ham. "That nobody really knows what goes on up there. Some say that the order trains folks to master the dark arts. Surely that isn't true." "Aye, I've heard the same rumors in my travels," Torrin said, and forked another bite of food from the plate. "Unfortunately, I am sworn to secrecy and cannot say much about the affairs of the order." "I've got no patience